Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad you're all here. I know there's still a few logging in, but I want to go ahead and get us started because this is one of those sessions that could take us a little time to get through. You know, as each of us works to make our digital platforms more accessible and compliant with ADA laws, there's a little pesky player out there that just won't seem to go away, and that's the PDF. There are some substitutes, but most of us still use PDFs. So how do we make them more accessible? A lot of you may remember Ken Smith from our June conference. He's from the city of Bryan, and he was part of a session focused on accessibility in public communications. Well, Ken is back with us today to take a deeper dive into some specific tools that we all need to learn about or that we're all already using. Ken is a certified government digital services professional for the city of Bryan. And for the city of Bryan and some of its community partners, Ken handles website design, development management, security, and accessibility. So today, Ken will be working in Adobe Acrobat. We had put a couple of sample documents on our website announcement page in case you want to follow along, but we are recording this session, and we'll be getting it posted to the website as soon as we can so that you can go back and re-listen, take more notes, share it with others, whatever you need to do. Before I turn things over to Ken, let me remind you to type your questions into the Q&A function, not the chat. Now, I'll try to keep an eye on both, but the Q&A function is the one that's easier for me to monitor. And that way, if there are questions as we go along, I can jump in and pose those to Ken so he can retrack over something or answer whatever your inquiry is. So without further ado, Ken, take it away.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Hope everybody's doing well. And, as we've transitioned from summer to winter, in some cases, maybe back to summer, I'm Ken Smith, as Dorothy said. Hope this is going to be very beneficial for you all. And I'm going to just jump in and start sharing my screen. And we're going to look at, share that. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up these documents in Adobe. Happen to already have these two documents open. Move that there. I don't know what everybody's familiarity is with PDF accessibility, but one of the standard ways of remediating PDFs is through Adobe Acrobat. There are other services out there that you can pay for that will do it. There are whole companies that are, I think Common Look was the name of one of them at one point. I'm not sure if that's still the name, that are all built around accessibility for PDFs. But Adobe has a built-in accessibility checker, and that's what we're going to be using today. I've got two documents here. One is a special event permit application for the city of Bryan. You can see it's several pages. It's got tables and forms and whatnot. And then there's a special event guide for the city of Bryan, for our Parks and Rec, which is a more designed document, but which also has, strangely enough, the exact same application here at the end. What we're going to find out is that this application at the end in this document is much easier to remediate than the application on it by itself. The reason being is that someone took this document, this application that was already built and digitized, they printed it out and scanned it in. And once they scanned it in, once you scan a document in and save it as a PDF, it immediately becomes inaccessible because it's a scanned image. There are no tags. There are no road maps, road signs, things like that to show somebody where to go. So we're going to go through this now and start and see how we can add some of those road signs back, how we can direct people on how to navigate this. So in Adobe Acrobat, and in the full version of Adobe Acrobat, you'll have to have the full version, comes with your Adobe Creative Suite. You probably are familiar with, your create, your edit, your export, things like that. Well, here there is a tool, and sometimes you have to go to your actual tools page to turn it on, your home page where it has all the tools across 1, 2, 3, 4. But there's a tool called accessibility. And this gives you all kinds of different options for making documents accessible. The first thing that I do, and I will say this, I have no formal training in accessibility other than the research that I do and the seminars that I have been to. But there's a lot of stuff out there, and there are a lot of people who are knowledgeable, and you can learn a lot by Googling things, frankly. But in Adobe, the first thing that you can do, you get a document here, there's an accessibility check. So you click that. Accessibility checker options. I use what comes default from Adobe. All of these things are checked. And you click start checking. And lo and behold, over here, along with your tags and your content, and your attachments and bookmarks, you now have an accessibility checker tab here. And what this is doing, it's done a quick scan, and it's saying, okay, this document, these are expandable sections. And this is how you go through and remediate a PDF. You literally go down the list. This document says it has 6 issues. One is that it's an image-only PDF, as I just discussed, and it says failed. It's a tagged PDF, also failed. The primary language of the document documents have to have a primary language specified for people, whether that's English or Spanish or German or Chinese, whatever. And the title of the document. Now, it may look like there's a title here, but the title of the actual document for Adobe, it has failed also. So there's a real easy way to remediate these things. You come to this interface, you highlight here, you right click, gives you a little options box. And for many of these things, there's going to be a fix button. So again, we're just coming over here, we're highlighting one of these things with that's tagged as a problem. We're going to click fix. All right. We're going to do this, and it's basically going to scan this like an OCR scan in Adobe to make it a searchable document. You can do it as a searchable image, editable text and images, but I always just do searchable image. You can do 300 or 600 DPI, it doesn't really matter. You click OK. What this does, you see it's generating a report down here. Okay, we have just checked off the first box in making this document accessible because it's no longer an image-only PDF. Moving down to the tagged PDF, you right-click here, click Fix. Hey, Adobe has just gone through and auto-tagged. You see this thing? It's just gone through and auto-tagged what it thinks should have tags. Now, I'll warn you, what Adobe thinks is not always right, but it is better than nothing. And I think that's something that we need to always consider is, accessibility being a moving target. It's extremely difficult to do anything completely 100% accessible for everything that you do. It's always changing. Dorothy and I use the example. You can create a 100% perfectly accessible website, and then the very next day, if you go and you put a photo up and you don't have an alternative text with it, your website is not accessible anymore. But there are levels, and the intent trying to make things accessible, I think, goes a long way to meeting people where they are. Not only is it the law, but it also shows that we care. It shows that we are trying to, meet people on their own terms, and that we want them to be able to access this information. All right, off my soapbox there now. All right, next thing, logical reading order. Logical reading order needs a manual check. Okay, so we right click on this. This document has a logical reading order. Basically, it's not something that would confuse somebody. You don't have a headline up here and then a photo, and then, or I should say, you don't have a caption and then a headline and then a photo. It's not out of order. So that's the easiest thing to fix, is you pass it. And if there are any questions about any of these kind of things, like Dorothy said, message us, the Q&A. Before I get into it a little deeper, I will also show you that if you click on these things, one of these options, so that you have fix or skip rule sometimes, something that is an extremely helpful thing is the explain option. If you see one of these things like primary language failed, okay, we could fix it, we could skip it, or we could find out more about it. So we're going to click explain. Adobe has an entire PDF accessibility, I would call it an appendix, or an FAQ kind of thing on. It's part of Adobe Acrobat's user guide, creating and verifying PDF accessibility, and all these different tools, accessibility issues, document, image only PDF. This reports, and it tells you what this means in Adobe speak. It reports whether the document contains non-text content that is not accessible. If it appears to contain text but doesn't contain fonts, it could be an image only PDF file. So you see what the kind of the definition is. I should have said a dictionary. You see what the definition is, and then you also see how to fix this rule automatically. Here's what you do. You go to Tools, Scan and OCR. If you want to do it manually, that's how you would do it. But you have auto options there. Tagged PDF, same kind of thing. Logical reading order. Verify this rule check manually. Make sure that the reading order displayed coincides with the logical reading order of the document. Because what's going to happen is that in your tags panel, for example, as I said, Adobe went through and tagged this. Well, does this have a logical reading order? Basically, is this a top level headline? Is this, a ordered list of some kind? Does it make sense, basically? So getting back to actually remediating this document, primary language failed. Let's fix that. Okay, we need to set the reading language. We'll set it to English. So you see we're checking these things off one at a time. The title failed. Let's fix the title. All right, so like I said, this looks like it's got a title, but the actual title of the document that a screen reader would read needs to be City of Bryan Special Event Application. Because that's what the main headline is. It has bookmarks already in it. Color contrast, this is one of those eyeballing things. People worry about color contrast all the time. Luckily, most documents are going to be black text on white backgrounds. So we can go ahead and pass that. All right. So in the document section, we have just fixed a bunch of these issues. And you'll notice when we converted this thing from an image only PDF to a text recognizable PDF, a lot of these other issues got solved automatically. So the next thing we do, we're continuing to go down the list. Alternative text. Okay, you can guess where this is going. This is images. Figures alternative text failed. Okay, well, you open that up and here, okay, figure 1. Oh, figure 2. Oh, those are not what you would think of as normal images. You would normally think of the City of Bryan logo here as an image, or the Bryan Fire Department logo, or the Police Department logo, which is horribly stretched. But this is what I was saying. The what Adobe tags things is not always right, because what Adobe has done in the auto tagging of this document, it's just taken a look at this and it said, oh, well, that's just set off a little bit. And it's one, section's got a border on it. That must be an image. Wrong. That's a table. And so this is yet one more reason why scanning in a PDF document makes it very, very difficult to actually make it accessible. Because in order to change those two things, I'm not going to fix these as an image because it does the user no good. It's not an image, no matter what Adobe says. If you wanted to correct an image and add alternative text, you have your fix option again. That's great. So you fix that. Image 3 of 5. It's the logo. So we type in City of Bryan logo. Then we move on to the next one. Bryan Fire Department. We move on to the next one. Bryan Police Department. All right, and you'll notice that fixed those items. They disappeared. I'm going to skip over this for the time being because there is later on we'll show you how this should look, but just know that there really is no good way to remediate something if it has a table here as an image without rebuilding the document. Hence, in our special event guide, this is why, since this document was already built, why we should not have printed this out, scanned it in, and then uploaded it to the website. We could, because we already have one that can be made accessible. Going a little forward, does anybody have any questions at the moment? Let me say this. Does anybody not have any questions at the moment? Because I'm sure everybody has lots of them.
Nothing's been typed in so far, Ken. They may be saving up.
Okay. I know this is a lot of stuff, and it can get very much in the weeds. Hopefully, what this will show you is there are some tools that are built into things that you use on a day-to-day basis that you can go in and you can play with this a little bit, see how these things work. Again, utilize this tutorial, and you can see how things can be made better. So I'm going to close that out right now because we're done fixing that. The next section is tables. We have 2 issues. Table headers have failed. Okay, what does that mean? Well, you click on an element here. This is a table. It is made up as a table, but it doesn't have a header section. There's nothing to say what these columns are. It just, we have barricade fees to be completed by the city. Well, that's great. But in an actual table, something that's accessible, a person reading this doesn't know that the word deposit refundable is, whatever, definition of this column should be. And they don't necessarily know in an out of order sense that $200 is price or fee, I should say. So what you do here, notice you don't have a fix button here. Some things have quick fixes. Tables do not. Tables are the bane of every designer and developer's existence in PDFs as well as web, because they are so hard to make it very clear how people can navigate through them. But what you do here is you show your table in the tags panel. That's a panel that's over here with your content and your attachments. Show in the tags panel. All right. You can see all these things. Paragraph tags. There's a table up here. this table is what we're talking about. So you can open that up and you'll see it has table rows 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are 4 table rows. And that's great. That's the appropriate, structure of a table. In those table rows, you have table data. This table data is deposit refundable. This one is $200. That's the correct structure. But what we need to do is we need to add, I'm going to bring this up here. We need to add headers to make this table pass accessibility. So what we do, we need to add a table row. I'm going to go a new tag. And as you can see, there are all kinds of tags, from headings to, different headings at different levels, links, list items, paragraphs, you name it. But what we're going to do is we're going to add a table row. And that added this right here. So then we move that up above the existing table. So here's our first table row. You can see, you click on it, it will highlight what's in the rows. So there's a row, there's a row, there's a row, and here's this total fees row. So this table row that is not highlighted, now within that, we add a table header cell. So this table header, and you have to move it underneath table row. So now we have a table header. And guess what? You have 1, 2, 3, and 4 columns. You're going to need, so you see 1, 2, 3, and 4 TDs here, table datas. You're going to need 4 table headers. So we're going to create another one. And yet another one. And yet another one. Now, what you put in those table headers is up to you. Just by putting tags into this table, that will technically make this thing that we're remediating compliant, but I'm not sure that it really helps the end user. What you would more than likely want to do is to take something like add a paragraph within this table header, which you could go through and new tag, paragraph. Where is it? There we go. Move that up under the header. And then you would add text to that paragraph. But that also requires you modifying the structure of the document. Most of us don't want to do that. So let's go back to our accessibility panel. Let's take a look at this.
Ken, let me toss in a little
Yes.
question right quick. Actually, it's more of a comment. One of our attendees is saying that they don't have this function. She's in Adobe Acrobat Pro 2017, but the accessibility feature does not show up. She does fix documents through another method, but is there a way that she can get an update? Does she need to get an updated version, or is there some other trick to accessing that capability?
So here in the tools, I don't know if they have the tools function, but accessibility shows up here in protect and standardize. I don't know if that is a function of Acrobat 2017.
Okay.
With Adobe now, as everything goes to subscription services, as a part, we have the Adobe Acrobat Pro DC, the document cloud. That's what comes standard with Adobe Creative Suite. So I am not sure about that. But like I said, sometimes it doesn't show up here by default. You might have to go over and, create a shortcut to it. If you could go to your, you have home, you have tools. you can maybe add a shortcut to it to where it does show up over here for some people. Don't know if that's actually going to help or not, but that's what I can offer there.
Cheryl, I hope that helps at the very least. Touch base with your IT department about potential updates. And Melinda's asking us and this is the full Adobe Acrobat. She says she has Acrobat X Pro, but she's also not seeing
this is the full Adobe Acrobat Pro, and it's the Acrobat Pro Document Cloud.
Okay.
DC. It's the one. I know this version has been available for several years, so it may be one of those things to where you need to check with your IT department to see if they can get that upgraded for you, if that is available as a standalone anymore. In some cases it is, in some cases some of the Adobe products are still available as standalone, but most of them are going to the subscription service where you get the cloud and you get everything, no matter how many of the pieces you use. Anything else on Adobe?
That's all I've got at the moment. Just to let you know, we're about 30 minutes into our hour. Y'all, I promised I'd help keep him on time.
Yes, I'm, just say next at 15 to go. All right. So, and again, I hope that this is helping somewhat to show what's involved in doing this. It's not a real simple process, but it is simpler than some other things. So we've just fixed those headers on that one thing. We're going to check it again. And hey, look, one of my problems disappeared. So that means that this table up here is now technically compliant because it has headers, even though we don't have any text in those headers. The structure of the table follows the organizational structure that is required. Header, row, header, row, data. Another problem with these is summary. Table summary. Let's go to one that actually, like this one. A table has to have a summary for someone to, who is using a screen reader to get what the table is about in a snapshot. You go in order to remediate that, and again, it's not going to show up on the PDF, but in order to remediate that here and give a screen reader a summary of this table, over on this right-hand side, there's a tab or a little thing called reading order. Click that, and as you see with reading order, it now kind of shows you all of the tags for all of the pieces of your document. That this is a paragraph, this is a paragraph. Example. Well, we see a table here. It's hidden. It's cut off, but that little shaded box right there says TABLE. So to add a summary to that, you touch the table, you right click, and you see edit table summary. So this is where you would put, this is a special event checklist for the Bryan Fire Department. That's not the most accurate summary in the world, but it'll suffice for what we're doing here. You click OK. I'm going to check it again. Hey, one of my table summaries has been fixed. So the next on this, we're going to skip over some of these things that have failed because they're just going to be the same thing of what we have just been doing. Close the reading order panel, and we're going to move to headings, appropriate nesting of headings. Websites work, PDFs work the same way that websites do. H1 is your top level heading. Then you have an H2, then you have an H3 and H4 and so on. Well, this heading apparently isn't nested correctly in that order. So we're going to show it in our tags panel. And we're going to look at this. What is it? Where is it? It's an H2 tag. Okay. Well, that would make sense. It's an H2. It's a big subhead. It should be a next level subhead. So what could be doing that? So we scroll up, we kind of look through our tags. Oh my. We go up to the very top of this screen and we look, there should be an H1 up here. There's not. In fact, if you look at this paragraph, it's highlighting it special event. Another paragraph. That should actually be one paragraph, but that's how Adobe tagged it when it tagged it automatically. It missed the top level heading on the page. So what do? We tag this as a H1 tag. You can highlight it. You go to reading order. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should do this. Go to reading order first. Oh, that's what I did. Yeah. Grab it and highlight it, and then you see all these different options of what you can tag. This shows up. We're going to tag it heading 1, and you'll notice right here an H1 tag shows up. City of Bryan Special Event Permit Application. So we go back to our accessibility, and I'm going to bet now that at least one of these nested heading things is going to be fixed when we check it again. We check again. Hey, look at that. Again, this next one, this is a little headline. Okay, let's look at this. Show in tags panel. Okay, so we had our H1 up there. We go down here, we have our H2, next level. Okay, then there's an H3. Whoops, there's an H5. That's out of order. It doesn't follow the hierarchy. So all you have to do, literally, you highlight, put your cursor there, you change that to H4. Go back to your accessibility, check again, and voila. This document now has all of its headings are in appropriate numerical order, heading 1, 2, 3, and 4, based on the hierarchy of the document. All right. At this point, for all intents and purposes, we've done everything we can with making a scanned document accessible. We're showing just a very few errors over here, and these would be fixed under normal circumstances. We're just going to not do that for time purposes. You save that document, and it's ready to go. Let's move over to this one that, again, was more heavily designed. And let's go and look at, we'll get into these tables and things here. You start just exactly how you used to. You did on the last one. Click accessibility check. We have our default information here. Start checking. Document. We have 4 issues now. Now this one, it's passed. It's not an image only PDF. It doesn't have a problem with being tagged already, because this was a PDF that was done in Adobe InDesign or a format like that. And when it was exported, it tagged it appropriately. Logical reading order, pass it. Now the title still fails, so we fix that. We'll do the special event guide. That's the title of this one, because that's what it is. Strangely enough, the bookmarks have failed here. So this is a quick fix. Click fix on bookmarks. Now it's going to give you the option to create bookmarks out of any of these tags that you want. I select them all. I'd rather be safe than sorry. Click OK. And your bookmarks have now passed. So again, this is the quick hit stuff that we're remediating. Color contrast. This is, again, requires a manual check, but the text is black on white or dark blue on white. And these reverse types is white on our Bryan blue color, which we have tested for color contrast. So we're we're good on that. So we can go ahead and pass that. All right, alternative text. Now, we saw there was a couple of images in that last document. Here we go. Figures alternative text failed. Oh my goodness. Start looking. 44 different images in this document. None of them have alt text. So if you click figure 1, that's an image. Figure 2, that's an image. That's the City of Bryans Parks logo. Now this nice, beautifully designed little graphic here. It's on every page. So every one of them on every page has to be fixed. And it's not one that you can do it as a batch. So I just, that kind of thing, I just say graphic. And I copy that, next, graphic, next, graphic. It's a pain, but it takes about 2 minutes. So that's how you fix those images. That's, that's the easy part. This other elements with alternative text, it's not seeing the background image as an image or as an element. So how do you fix that? Well, trying to remember on this one. You go to your reading order, and you can see it's calling it a paragraph. It's not really a paragraph. It's a figure. It's an image. So you change that to figure. Now, figure, no alternative text. Same thing as we scroll down, maybe if we close out, as we scroll down here, this is another example of it. This logo, for whatever reason, wasn't scanned as an image, so we changed that to a figure, no alternative text. Same thing with this. Now, you check again. The other elements have passed, and I've gotten a couple more figures in my in my alternative text thing for images. Looking at tables, we're going to move down to tables. Here's an example of a table that, again, it says it has, looks like it has headers, but the headers failed. So we show in the tags panel, and you see it's highlighting all of this. What we see is that in this row, it doesn't actually have a header in the top row. It's done as table data. So this is an easy one. Make that TH, 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 and TH. Go and check it again. Now you see we have a lot of these. But that one that I just fixed is now fixed. Here's an example of where I wish this had been built not using a table to line these things up, but it just has 2 columns. Again, this is an example. As you see, you click on these, it highlights the different ones. This is an example of, yet again, it's a quick fix. This data, 90 gallons. That just needs to be a TH instead of a TD. And this seems like little things, but when a screen reader is trying to read through this, a screen reader is not going to, it's not as smart as humans are with visual sight. It's going to be the kind of thing that if it doesn't have a table header, it's not going to know where to go. And then ultimately your user's not going to know where to go or it's not going to know that 90 gallons, oh, that's table data. Well, that's actually the header. So let's check again. Yep. You see we're getting shorter and shorter. Same thing with table summaries. Now, the one thing I wanted to come back to, you crawl down here. And this document, this original document that someone printed out and then scanned back in, if you'll notice in the tags panel, we click here. Don't try to get there. There's a lot of divs and arts and spans here. Sorry about this. There's a table in these. There it is. Well, or maybe. All right, here we go. So you notice how it's already set up as a table. And you notice how each of these items is highlighted. It's set up with its table rows, its table data, its paragraphs, type of event program, proposed location. A screen reader can read this. That other version that we were looking at that we were trying to remediate, it had that whole block just as an image. Screen reader can't read that. So that's why I highly recommend never, if at all possible, never scanning in documents to use as PDFs on a website. If you've got to use PDFs on a website, try it when at all possible to have them created natively in some kind of digital format, whether that's Word or Acrobat or Adobe, or converting from Word to Adobe. It just makes things a lot easier on this remediation. So speaking of that, I'm looking.
Okay, Ken, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. We do
Yes,
have
ma'am.
about 15 minutes left, and I do need a couple of minutes at the end for a couple of
Right.
announcements.
Going to go into my last little talk, or last little part here. That is in a nutshell how Adobe remediation works. So one of the things that I am trying to use, and we are trying to use, we're trying to go paperless, as everyone is. And in doing so, obviously our code of ordinances, these are the prototypical, oh, we printed this out, we scanned it in, and we needed to put it up on the website for something. Well, why do that? If you have a service such as MuniCode, City of Bryan uses MuniCode for all of our codes of ordinances. MuniCode has a built-in scanning functionality that will scan this and has an accessibility function for readability for people with disabilities. So I just want to show you what that's sort of like here. I'm going to turn my voiceover on. Hope that
voice banner list 2 items, MuniCode logo, heading level, end of list. BDU request for transfer, main page thumbnails. Go to specific pages using thumbnail images. Thumbnail 1 thumbnail 2 thumbnail 3 page thumbnails. Go to specific pages using thumbnail images button. You are currently on a button. To click this button, press Control Option space.
Just think about what it's like being blind and having to use one of these. It'll change your life. So
main page 1 ordinance no 2531 an ordinance of the City of Bryan, Texas, amending chapter 42 fire protection and prevention, article 2 fire prevention code of the Bryan City Code, repealing the 2015 edition of the International Fire Code published by the International Code Council and adopting the 2021 edition, and local amendments repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith. Provide toolbar item palette. You are currently voiced over off.
So you see what that just did there. That just MuniCode you upload your document there, and it will do a scan, letter for letter, word for word, and will make it accessible. So there is no reason to reinvent the wheel, if at all possible. So instead of linking to PDFs on your website, of ordinances, things like that. I know departments love their stuff, but if you have those ordinances stored in a service such as MuniCode or some other service that offers this functionality, you take care of two issues, at once. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Last thing I'll show you is one of the things that we do with the city of Bryan. We're trying to, again, this is not a simple form, but this is electrical service. The key here is that every single one of these fields is accessible. We use Laserfish forms, but there are other forms that are, form products that are out there. The key is that this is all text or tags on a web page as opposed to a document. So voiceover on again.
Voiceover on list 5 items. Heading level 1. Request for transfer. Horizontal splitter 2 of 5. You are currently on a heading level 4. Transferring services from one location to another requires the disconnection of existing service, your current location, and the address to be connected. Please enter the requested information below. If a responsive business hours are Monday through horizontal splitter 5 of 5. You are currently on a horizontal splitter. To start interacting with the splitter, press Control, Option, Shift, down arrow.
We're not going to interact with the splitter, but I want to go down to some of these text fields to where you can see how it alerts people.
End of list. Heading level 2. Disconnection of existing service. Your section. List 14 items. BDU account number star field type number 1 of 15. You are currently on a text element. BDU account number star field type number required edit text. You are currently on a text field. To enter text in this field, type 987,878. Name star field type single line 2 of 15. You are current. Value must be between 200,000 and 300,000. First, you are currently on a text field. To enter text in this field, type.
Now you see what that just did. That account number is not accurate. And it actually, you have a little pop-up alert there. But the screen reader, because it's in this kind of a format and it's accessible to, the web page itself, the screen reader can read that pop-up value immediately when it shows up. So that's an example of why everybody I really wish and hope that everyone can make the move to more online forms for almost everything. I know PDFs are not going away, but this is just a much better
Voiceover off.
Don't want that to start jabbering at me. This is just a much better user experience for everyone, not just people with disabilities. You get more instant gratification. You don't have to potentially download something, type things in, or handwrite it in, scan it in, bring it down to the city. It's meeting people, all people, in the spaces where they live. So,
Ken, we have a question about
yes,
requirements. Someone asks, are we required to do this for our website if we are under a certain population?
yes. There are, I know that the state has done different regulations and rules for things like broadcasting meetings and stuff. If you're under a certain population, you don't have to do that. My understanding is that this is federal law. This is the Americans with Disabilities Act. These things are required by federal law and then also by state laws. There are always loopholes, but just because of a size of an organization, I have not seen anything to suggest that size of organization would matter in the event that there was a lawsuit brought against you. And that's also something to remember about the ADA, whether it's curb cuts or potholes or, traffic lights, if you try to cross the street and you don't, have a voice activated system telling you, wait. whether it's that or it's your website or PDFs, whatever, you are sued not by the federal government or any government entity. You're sued by individuals, and then you have to settle with those individuals. You can maybe sued by one individual, and 2 days later, a second individual can come forward and sue you. This is what started happening in Florida a few years back with the PDFs. And a friend of mine who worked in Manatee County at the time, she presented at a conference I recently went to about what they had to do in Manatee County, Florida. That's Bradenton, Tampa Bay area. How they had to go through and come to an agreement with these people who were suing them on a timeline, what the level of accessibility would be, etc. If y'all want, feel free to email me directly, ksmith@bryantx.gov. I'd be happy to share other information, federal government links on what the accessibility requirements are, things for third-party vendors, any of that kind of stuff.
ksmith@bryantx.gov, correct?
That's it.
All right, good. Yes, we just put that in the chat.
Yep.
Another question is, are screen readers free, and what is a good one?
Screen readers, there are different types of screen readers. One that is built in with any Apple device is called VoiceOver. That's what I've been using. I'm on a Mac. So VoiceOver, I believe Microsoft also has that capability. I'm not as familiar with the Microsoft products. I know they have a voice to text option for people to speak and it will type. So I'm sure that they would have a reading option as well. And that should be built into Windows. A lot of people they've heard the word JAWS. JAWS is a type of an accessibility screen reader, but for our everyday kind of testing, I would try to use whatever is built into Microsoft products or your Apple products or Google products, your Samsung phones, things like that. They should have accessibility readers and things of that nature built into them by default. The big companies understand that they're missing out on potentially a large market share if they don't have those things by default.
Okay, Ken, we are kind of reaching the end of our time. Is there anything else that you want to throw out? Does anybody else have any questions?
I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with y'all. We'll stop my share. And this is a passion for me. I want to live in a world where I feel like everybody has the chance and can get things in the same way or in a reasonable way. Whether that's us translating a printed document into Braille, or whether that's, doing voiceovers and things with the web. 20% of the population of this country have some kind of a disability, whether that's color blindness or just, I'm blind. I have bifocals now. That's a disability. So having things built in and trying to meet people where they live, I think it goes to what we do as communications professionals.
It does. Ken, thank you so much for helping us with this. I know, folks, you may have more questions. We've put Ken's email address in the chat, and we will have the recording available on the website a little later. It may be a couple of days because Lauren's on vacation, but we'll get it posted up to the website. But I also know that this is an ongoing topic. There's a lot for us to learn. And even if we're not the individuals doing the remediation or whatever, we need to understand what we can and can't do, what we need to do, what our residents and citizens need from us. So this will be an ongoing conversation. kind of become a personal priority of mine to make sure we have some type of session during the conferences each year to address whether it's broader topics in this area or specific topics. And I'm sure we'll do future webinars with specifics as well. So again, I look forward to hearing from you all about those things. A couple of announcements before we wrap up. For November, a topic that will be very important for cities with water utilities. There are new public outreach requirements related to specific water quality issues. These are extensive and complex. Mary Gugliusa with the Fort Worth Water Department will give us an overview of some of these requirements and how they will impact us all. So watch your inboxes. We'll do a formal announcement as soon as we're able, but go ahead and pencil it in on your calendars. It will be on Wednesday, November 9th. And I also want to point out another possible learning opportunity we can consider. The Government Finance Officers Association is hosting the Rethinking Public Engagement Summit. It's completely online. It runs November 7th through 10th. This summit will bring together local government officials, civic technologists, and leading thinkers about public engagement from across the country, and it'll examine some of the hottest topics. And when it comes to government transparency and especially government finances, this is something I know that all of us are dealing with. So if you want to learn more about this, you can go to GOFA's website. That's gfoa.org. The summit homepage is gfoa.org/RPE. I also posted about this in the Facebook group earlier this week. So, or maybe it was last week. Time flies when you're having fun. So you can find that there. Again, thank you all for your time and attention today. And it looks like we'll have the webinar posted here shortly. We'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Y'all take care.